Have you ever known the pain and worry of being unemployed, barely making ends meet, or maybe just having not enough money to care for yourself or your family? Have you ever been too sick or injured to work, where if you had to go to work, you know you would fail, or worse, you'd probably get more ill or increase the agony of your illness, or maybe your injury would get worse and it would take you even longer to recover? If you can remember feeling this way, try to imagine it. If you've never felt this way, you can also try to imagine it. Because I'm going to ask you a question. Can you imagine what this might be like if you were self-employed, and if you don't work, you literally don't have enough money to pay for your food and your basic needs? Or do you know someone who is self-employed? Could it be that you have a friend, a family member, mother, daughter, brother, son, sister, father, or maybe a friend from church? Maybe it's a neighbor, or how about someone who's done work for you at your home in the past? Somebody who's trustworthy, they've been reliable, friendly, and someone you could almost call a friend. Well, I bet you do, whether it's a landscaper, gardener, hairstylist, handyman, even your doctor or dentist. Seriously, you probably do know someone like that, and maybe you never thought about it this way before. Are you ready for a surprise? Here's what you probably don't know. There are over 14 million self-employed people in the United States, and the helpers they hire account for 44 million jobs in total. That's right, that's more than 30% of our workforce. That accounts for a huge amount of the taxes paid, groceries and gas purchased, cars and trucks bought, and people who are directly or indirectly support whatever business that you happen to work for. Seriously, we're all in this together. In other words, we owe these people a lot, from supporting other businesses and their employees to paying taxes for roads, police, firefighters, and our military personnel. But people don't usually know about this, and the government treats these hardworking men and women, and subsequently their employees who depend on them for jobs, like they just don't matter, while billions get doled out to those who don't or won't work. That's right. The government has no safety nets for the self-employed. And it isn't fair. Think about it for a minute. Honestly, most people who learn about this get kind of angry about it. So that's why I'm trying to do something about it. Listen, self-employed people make a huge contribution to our country, and yet they are often taxed more personally after already paying high company taxes. They also have to cover their own security taxes for Social Security, pay into unemployment insurance they can't even collect, and more. When tragedy strikes their families and they aren't able to work, there is little or nothing to help them. If they're fortunate enough to have savings, those funds get drained while the government helps millions who can work, but they just don't. Often, it's the self-employed people who can't work due to family tragedies and other medical problems who truly suffer. They often don't qualify for programs at the state and federal levels because, unlike employees, they fall into a different category and they get nothing at all. Well, how do I know this? Because I come from a family of self-employed people. We work hard, we create a few jobs for people, we pay our taxes, and we try to make ends meet to take care of our families. So here's my personal story. Not too long ago, I had to have emergency open heart surgery. I was just finishing off some contracts and I had 3 more customers ready to sign with me, but God had different plans for me. My chest started to hurt, and even though I had a good diet and exercise lately, you see, heart disease runs in my family, and my dad died when I was a kid of a heart attack. But I was fortunate enough to get warning signs that he never got. So I ended up in the emergency room and had a heart catheterization following by having my chest cut wide open with 3 bypasses. Things went well, but there were a few complications, like a collapsed lung. I spent 10 days in the hospital, and the work I had lined up just vanished. The new contracts were gone, people moved on, and I understand, people can't always wait. But after they found out what happened, they were sure nice about it. They were even sorry, but with the work I do, often the things have to get done with deadlines of only a few weeks, so the work was gone. My family was scared, my kids were afraid they were going to lose me, and my recovery was threatened by financial worries that came into play. It was a lot of stress for me, and my heart surgeon and cardiologist were very, very clear that I was to avoid stress, especially during my recovery. That's right. The doctors told me how important it was to avoid stress after surgery, but what could I do? My money dried up, and much of my savings had gone to taxes at the year's end, and my credit was getting used up quickly just to keep the winter's heat on and the food on the table. I couldn't sleep when it was most important for my healing. The questions kept coming. How was I going to put food on the table and pay for the utilities in the late cold winter? I didn't know. Some help did come from family and friends, and thank God for them. But honestly, I knew it was going to take a couple of months to drum up new business and get back on track. I had no choice but to try to get back to work right out of the hospital. And frankly, the effort and stress almost put me back in the hospital a couple of times. So I started thinking about this more, about other self-employed people who don't have any safety net at all. People who never got better. They did too much too soon and end up in the hospital again with even more expenses. People who may have lost their homes, their families, all because there was nothing for them after their hard work when they were in crisis. They were alone. Their families didn't have a lot of money and resources, and the government offered them no help at all. I knew some of these people personally, like John, who put my furnace in my house 20 years ago. And then he had a heart attack. His best two guys had no work because he was out of the game. His wife ended up leaving him because he didn't work, just when he needed her most. John didn't make it. And I can't help but believe if he had gotten the help he needed, he'd still be here. But hey, that's his problem, right? And then there was Dave, who built houses and additions on family homes. He worked hard for years, but one day this happened. He tore his knee up on a job trying to keep a wall from falling on a worker below. He couldn't work for 2 months. He had incredible medical and rehab expenses, and 2 years later he's still struggling with things. His best carpenter and laborer moved on to another job out of necessity. He had to sell his tools and equipment, and he knew he needed these for future jobs when he could get back to work, but he had no choice. So here's my point. At first I was going to go set up a GoFundMe account just for me and my family as a single father with kids, one of whom is handicapped. I actually really needed the help big time, but then I started thinking about these other guys and how I didn't help them out at the time. You know, I'm not rich, but I could have done something for them. But for God's sake, I wish I had. Anything, but I didn't. And I knew in my heart that I had to change this. So I started thinking, and I realized this is bigger than me. Maybe there are lots of people who need this help, and still more who can offer a little more help. Maybe someone like you. You see, I've been a lot of things working for myself. A remodeler, a martial arts school owner, motorcycle repair shop owner and mechanic, but for the past few years I've been a business coach and consultant. I help people start businesses the right way, from scratch. I help business owners grow and restructure and market their businesses. I also have a certification in nonprofit management and have worked with nonprofits too. I'm good at it. And I realized God allowed me to gain all these skills so I could pull this off, so I could put them to use to help people. So like I said, my heart problem got me out of the game and hurt me and my family. My health was threatened by stress, and I had to start working when I was not supposed to be working to get new contracts for work, with the bills stacking up and the refrigerator getting empty. After a lot of prayer, I realized there were lots of self-employed people and families, men and women, who, just like me, when severe medical problems happened, kept them from working. So like I said, that's when I realized there was a bigger mission. And I was given the idea for a way I could really help make a difference. I got the idea that there were other people out there who would want to help too, maybe someone like you. So if you can hang on there for just a few more minutes, I want to tell you about CASE. This stands for Crisis Assistance for the Self-Employed, and it will do exactly what I talked about. But there's a slight problem and I need your help, because you see, I haven't fully recovered from my surgery yet, and my business is still on the mend too. Can I tell you something I'm a little embarrassed about? I don't have the funds myself to get it up and running, so here I am on GoFundMe, because this is important enough to me that I have to swallow my pride and ask for help. I have to get a website, get the nonprofit set up, raise some money for marketing, and get the word out, etc. So let me tell you more about CASE and how it will help people. CASE will do the following. 1. Raise funds for people for emergency living expenses for self-employed who go through medical problems like the ones I mentioned above, so they can make ends meet and take care of their families. These funds will come from private donors, foundation, and maybe even government grants. It'll raise awareness about self-employed people and the economic contribution they make to our country. It'll become an advocacy with local, state, and federal government to help get self-employed people the help and respect and breaks they need to grow and continue to make a huge contribution to our country without getting snuffed out by overbearing government regulations and taxes. But the first and foremost mission is number one, to raise funds for emergency living expenses for self-employed people who have medical problems and can't work for a while. So why GoFundMe? Because seriously, it takes money to get something like this off the ground. From filing for the nonprofit, to building a website, to marketing and advertising, and probably hiring somebody and creating a job to help with secretarial and administration stuff. That takes money. And frankly, I'm still recovering from my own heart surgery, or I'd probably be able to pay for it myself. I'm just getting back up on my feet, so I need your help, and others do too. So what's in it for you? Well, so far I don't have anything to offer like t-shirts or mugs or freebies to get started. And if you want that stuff, maybe someday Case can and will do that. But for now, I just really want the money from you and others to go directly to making Case a reality. I have the business knowledge and expertise to do this, and I will not fail, especially with the help of people like you. So how can you help? Any contribution, $100, $50, $25, $10, even $5 will help. Whatever you feel in your heart is right. Do you know any self-employed people? Someone that you like or even love? Someone you know would suffer and whose family would suffer if they couldn't work because of an accident or medical emergency? Maybe you've been through this yourself, or maybe it's crossed your mind that this may happen to you. If not, I understand. This may not be important to you. But if you do relate to any of this for yourself or on behalf of anyone you know, please decide to help. You'll be helping to eventually bless a lot of people if you do. Remember, any amount will help towards getting this project started, and we will not fail. Seriously, $100, $50, $25, $10, even $5 will help. So the people who can't work, who are used to working hard, will get the help they need to feed their families, keep them moving towards health and healing without the stress of being left helpless to make ends meet. It's true, self-employed people aren't usually rich. Usually they have ups and downs and struggles, but they always work hard and make a real contribution to their families, their employees in our country. Let's help them. Can they count on you to help? I hope and pray that they can. So thank you for your help. Whether it's a little or a lot, it all matters. God bless. Thank you.